All right, folks. So now this is our deep dive segment. So if you stick around for this, then you're just like us. You love all of this geeky stuff. So we're gonna dive deeper into and give some more details into our thoughts and what we would decide for ourselves when it comes to this new MacBook. So before we get into it, I wanted to share. Well, one, I wanted to share my recommendations to Greg because I'm Greg's personal IT guy, and and just kind of get his opinion on that, and then he's going to share with us what he thinks he should do, which device he should purchase, and his thought process and stuff, and going along with that. But before we jump into that, Greg mentioned something that kind of surprised me. So Greg is and don't get me wrong, he's not like a flashy, like materialistic guy. He's really subtle, when it comes to things. But when it comes to his technology, he loves to max out on things. He loves the greatest. If there's a medium, a small, medium, and large, or a fast, faster, and fastest, Greg's loves the fastest. Greg
Good,
always goes
better,
with the fastest.
best. I always
Yes,
want the
he,
best in
he
tech.
always wants the best. Yeah. So before they even talked about pricing and things like that, because remember at the time of the announcement, the store is down, so we don't really have pricing and things. I automatically assumed Greg wanted the Pro Max, the M3 Pro Max, with the not necessarily the biggest screen, but you want a 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte, hard drive storage and all of that. And when we were messaging back and forth, you actually said you wanted just the M3 on the 13-inch monitor, and it kind of caught me off guard. I'm like, wow, Greg is. But after we talked it through and we looked at the specs and all of that, and like we mentioned in the main show, that MacBook Pro is good enough for 98% of the people that are out there. Now, I don't think that that's the case with Greg, and I'll get into that in a second. But yeah, you kind of surprised me with that comment. I didn't.
Well, here's how you solve that problem. So I'm on I'd use the compare page, and I've got the 14-inch because I don't need the 16, right? I just don't need the
Right.
extra
Yeah,
there.
that is a big monitor too.
So if I go with the top end M3 Max chip, that's $300 more than the entry level Max chip.
Hmm.
And so that's 16 cores, 40 GPUs. That defaults to 48 gigabytes of RAM.
Right.
Unified memory is what they
Wow.
call it. Now you can go
Yeah.
up to 64. That adds another $200, or you can go up to 128, which adds $1,000
Wow.
onto it. So if I just got the default, that higher end chip, the 48, which would be more than enough for what I do, the 1 terabyte
Hmm.
SSD, $3,700.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. And again, that was before we knew pricing.
So the problem that I have is not that that wouldn't be incredibly awesome. I have two problems. One is, how would I justify spending that much money?
Right.
Right. So, because spoiler, that's going to be about $1,000 more than kind of what I'm looking at right now.
Hmm.
And two, I don't want to buy a Mac in the first place.
Right.
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 I'm
Yeah.
still struggling with the fact that I know I'm going to have to, right? I don't have a whole lot of choice there. I make money because I have a computer that allows me to do it. And I'm not just talking about this podcast, right? I mean, my
Right.
consulting
Right.
business is all online, and everything I do depends on me having a good, reliable computer.
Yes.
And my lifestyle, which means I want to go work out on the back porch or on the couch or in the camp trailer, or I want to be able to be disconnected, which is where I'm really running into problems with this laptop, also
Hmm.
requires me to have this, because I need the power and I need the battery life kind of combined. I still wish I could go all iPad.
Yeah.
I think I could make an iPad work. I think I would have to take a lot more time to do some of the things I do today on an iPad, like rendering video and all that kind of stuff. It's just not going to
Hmm.
be as quick. So I could make it work but that would change some of my lifestyle, right? Instead of all day,
Right.
one day to do gadgets for families and produce 8 or so videos, it might take me 2
Right.
because it would just be so much slower, which is less time with the kids and the family and all that kind of stuff. So I can't justify $3,700, first of all, for what I do. I think it would be
Right.
way overkill. And then second of all, I don't want this computer. I don't really want this computer, but I need it. I need a computer like this
Yeah.
to do my thing. So
Yeah. So let's get into my recommendation. So I thought listening to this, and this is what I would go with if I needed to buy it. Right. Greg does all of the producing and stuff like that. Now I know that, like you said, I'm not gonna like it, but I am really considering um, a Mac Mini, right, to offload the. Um, anyway, we'll get into that. I'm considering a Mac Mini along with my iPad Pro, and then the iPad M3 iPad Pro next year whenever they announce it. So, but
let's
here's
pause on
here's what
that,
I'm thinking.
Jason. Let's pause on that.
Okay,
That is what I would go with
right,
if I weren't a traveler. And I'm not talking about on an airplane kind of traveler. I'm talking
yeah,
about my camp trailer
right. You're
and
away from
spending.
a week from there. Yeah,
Yeah, I would. I've got the monitor, I've got a keyboard, I've got all the stuff, right? I can just
yeah,
buy that little $600 or $800, way cheaper than what I'm talking about, right? Little
right,
machine,
right.
put it on my desk, and I'd be good to go if this is where I was going to work. Or if I only worked from home and had a big iPad like you do,
Hmm.
because you could actually remote in easily into your
Yes,
Mac when you're on your home network. I actually explored this. Do I want to punch a hole in my home network so I could use Jump, for example, which is what you and I used when we were at Stewart,
right.
right? To RDP and VNC. I could do all of those kinds of things.
Yeah,
I don't want it. It's just added complexity. I'm already frustrated with the complexity that the Mac adds. I know it's necessary, but I already
hmm,
don't like it. The last thing I want to do is worry about firewalls and VPNs and all of this other stuff
yeah.
for secure connectivity. So yeah, I would go with the Mac Mini. I think that would be ideal, but I don't want a tethered
Yeah.
lifestyle. So
Right, right. And then dealing with the unseen things, right? Issues or whatever with connectivity and being remote and satellite signal. And I know you talked about Starlink and using hotspots and things like that. They all contribute to just more issues with those secure connections. So
yeah,
yeah, just from a simplicity standpoint, having that MacBook Pro, having all of your files with you and everything that you need when you travel, um, would probably be the best. So
I would pay
this is
big
my
money. Sorry, I
recommendation.
keep going off on sidetracks here, Jason. I would pay big money if Apple had a virtual Mac subscription that I could do, like I had a server, a Windows
Right.
server at Stewart.
Yeah, yeah.
If they would say, we will give you basically a high-end Mac environment to use, secure
Right.
connection, you just remote into it. We monitor the uptime like our IT department did at Stewart, right?
Yeah,
I never had to worry about it being down. I would pay a lot of money for them to maintain that environment for me and to let me get to it from a 12.9-inch iPad Pro all day
wow,
long.
so think about that for a second. Think about that for a second. How long have people been asking to be able to dual boot Mac OS on an iPad? Maybe that's the solution to that. Apple, and you know Apple listens. I believe Tim Cook is one of the subscribers.
Yeah.
Think about that. Make a fully functional remote desktop instance of Mac OS part of the iCloud subscription, right?
Yep.
Add another $5 or $6 onto it. I'll
Or
go ahead. I'll pay
10 or 20.
15.99.
I would pay,
Right.
right? I
Oh,
mean,
hold on now. I wouldn't pay that much for it. So
you might not, but I would.
right, right. No, but I understand what you're saying. And make that part of an iCloud subscription, right? So somebody buys an iPad Pro 14-inch, I'm hoping for this year that's coming up, and you say, hey, part of that subscription now, or if you wanted to add a subscription, you can have a desktop instance of Mac OS Sonoma for $15 a month. and that'll kind of, you know what I mean? You'll
Yeah.
be able to be able to do some of the heavy lifting on that desktop, and I think that's a really good idea.
I mean, it means I don't have to maintain the operating system. It means I
Right,
don't have to worry about checking it for malware or any of those kinds of
right,
things. It means I don't have to worry about the backups. It means my photos, which I know is an episode we want to get to, that I download
right.
in full res onto my Mac, I wouldn't have to worry about having a physical Mac to do
Yep.
that because they would be sitting there. Now, I probably still want a backup somewhere, but I even got thinking about that. Wow, if I went no
Right,
Mac, what am I going to do with my photos? And then I realized you were going to tell me. So, in an episode here soon. So,
right.
it just takes away all of my angst around Mac OS, right? All of that
Yes.
complexity somebody else is dealing with, which is exactly what I had when I was at Stewart and exactly what we gave to the executives too, right? We told them,
Yes,
hey, if
we
you
did.
need to go in and do heavy lifting, you press on this little jump icon right here, you put in your
Mhm.
ID and password. It's going to connect you into this. And oh, by the way, if there's a problem with it, you call IT. There's nothing you need to do about
Right,
this. And
right.
they had
We'll
all the
take care of
power
it.
that they needed, all that kind of stuff. And surprisingly, we had some very non-techie executives. We had some of both, right? But we had a couple of very non-techie executives that all we had to do is show them how to do that once. And they
Right.
thought it was the best thing ever.
Yeah,
Ever.
they got it.
Yeah. So that would be ideal because then I don't have to worry
Yeah,
about any of this. And that's why I say I would pay more than what you were talking about, is because it just takes
right,
away all of this discussion. And every 18 months, I would gladly update to the next iPad Pro that came out.
right. Somebody send this to Tim Cook. We need this.
Yeah.
Apple maintaining it, you know it's gonna work perfectly.
Yeah.
You know it's gonna work smoothly. Yeah, I love that idea.
Okay, Jason, tell me what I should buy. I'll click
So,
as you
yeah.
talk.
So back to that. I think you should go with the 14-inch Mac Pro M3 Pro. So what kind of pricing are we looking on that?
Okay. So the starting price on that is 19 or 24, depending on. So the lower end is 11 core CPU and 14 core GPU and 512 SSD. The next tier is 12, 18, and 1 terabyte SSD.
Okay. So I don't really know about the 512
Well,
SSD.
I can upgrade that. So, but where do we start? Do we start with the 11 core or the 12 core CPU? Is
The
the
11 core.
Yeah, okay,
The
all right,
base,
all
the
right.
base. Let's start with, yeah. We'll start with the base. The only thing I think you would just need more of is the SSD, right? The storage on there.
Okay, so but how much memory? Because that's 18 gigabytes of RAM.
Yeah, 18. I think you'll be fine with. Well, yeah, no, because I think the Pro requires you to go to 32.
Nope.
Right? We're talking M3 Pro. Can you
M3
get the Pro
Pro,
M3
you can
Pro with
start with
18?
18. Yep. 18 or 36 are your two choices.
Mm, let's check the price difference. Let's start with 18, and we'll see what the price difference would be.
$400 difference
With,
between the two.
okay, no, let's stick with 18
Okay.
because I think that's fine. I
All
think
right.
that's fine because we're talking. It's already going to be faster doing your video editing and stuff like that. Um, I don't think 36 gigabytes is going to make that huge of a difference
Okay.
to where you would see, yeah, 18 gigabytes,
Okay. 512 or 1 terabyte?
1 terabyte. You can't get by with 512. What do you have on your Mac now? You have a
512.
terabyte now.
No, I have
You have
512.
512.
And
Let's go with
I'm
one
using,
terabyte.
if I clean it up on a semi-regular basis, I sit around 300, not a deep clean, which I actually need to do.
Right.
Um, but yeah, it's all of this video stuff.
No, we're talking about larger videos, higher res videos. So let's go with 1 terabyte. Let's not even
Okay.
consider 512. And we're talking the next 5 to 6 years on this machine. 512 is not going to cut it.
Okay.
So 1 terabyte.
And that's about it. I mean, there's other stuff you can add, but those are the main things.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
So that one comes in at $21.99.
Okay. Wow. I was hoping around 1800.
No, I mean
1800 to
it's
1900
200
range, but
bucks. It's 200 bucks
yeah,
for the SSD bump. So, I mean, I
yeah,
could get it down to 19 there.
right, right. But that's just my recommendation to you, right? And that was me assuming again you were going to want the Pro Max, being surprised that you, I mean not Pro Max, the M3 Pro, um, being surprised that you want to just get the regular M3. And then my recommendation would be the M3 Pro with these specs that you selected now. So you know, way more because the prices are way more for these MacBooks, but still, that's just my recommendation. So let's take us through what you're thinking. If you had to go to it through it now, because I believe you said you're gonna probably hold out and wait for the iPads like me. But
I
if
don't
you had to pull the trigger now,
I don't
like
know if
last night, because you were on the fence about whether or not to hit order or hit submit, what are you thinking?
I don't know if I can wait is my problem.
Right.
So, and I still don't think because my problems that I have with this MacBook won't be solved by an iPad, right? I
No.
mean, I'm still going to want to do the the things that drain the battery the fastest or when I've got my movie editing or my video editing stuff up and running, right? It just consumes the
Right.
battery. And so it's not going to be solved. And I'm not going to want to do that on an iPad. I mean, you can. I use iMovie right now, and you've got
Hmm.
iMovie on the iPad. You've actually got Final Cut and Logic on the
Right.
iPad that you can do too. But I don't know if I'm ready to make that jump. And I just worry about the sheer number. Like our podcast, this one's running shorter, which is great. But if I do a 2-hour video to render that, it takes a long time on this Mac, which is got
Right.
16 gigabytes of memory and all of this stuff chugging away. So I just don't know if I can wait. So
Yeah.
that's problem number one. What I have in my cart last night, I left it alone, but it took me like 2 hours to fall asleep last night as
Yeah.
this plus a book I'm reading. And I should have just got up and kept reading. But so what I have is the entry level M3 Pro chip. I have given up on the M3 chip. I think in part because I need that extra port, right?
Yeah.
I need that extra port, even though there are some dongles, but I do so much with USB C. There just aren't a lot of multi USB C port dongles out there. So, anyway, so I've given up on that. Plus, by the time I spec these equivalent, there was only a $400 difference between
Right.
the regular M3 and the Pro chip. And again, I make a living on this machine, so I don't want to
Right.
shortchange myself. And I know myself well enough that if I ever started having problems or something, it would,
You're gonna regret not getting
I'd,
the M3
yeah,
Pro.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that being said, I did go up to I added the $400 for the 36 gigabytes of memory. So to double
Okay.
the memory. Same challenge that I have is if I've got this cranking away at multiple videos at the same time, I want it to go as quickly as it possibly
Right.
can. I did do the terabyte SSD, and then I left
Good
everything
move.
else the same. So that one is $25.99. So it is $400 mostly because it's the 400. It's the $400 upgrade on
Yeah.
the memory. So last night, though, I didn't even think about going lower on the memory because this is faster memory. It's integrated. It probably can handle it better than what I've got
Yeah.
today. So I could save $400 there if I really want to. But I just don't know. The other thing that I started thinking about last night is if I go in and look at, um, if I were to get a terabyte hard drive, here's the thing about a terabyte hard drive. If I start to approach that limit on my internal drive, that also means my cloud storage stuff is probably starting to hit
Right.
terabyte as well. And one of the problems that I have is Office 365 is it's a terabyte limit, and it's actually pretty pricey to add on any sort of significant
Yeah.
storage, and it's per month and that kind of stuff. So I kind of don't want to go over that there. So in my head, what I was thinking through is I really need to go in. I'm actually using Clean My Mac X right now to run a storage map. But
Hmm.
what I probably would be better off doing, because it would be cheaper all round, is better managing our stuff, because it's really our video files that cause the problem, but better managing this and Leaders Lift from a video standpoint and saying, I'm going to leave the last 2 episodes or the last month's worth of episodes on my hard drive. And then once a month, everything associated with the older episodes, I completely remove, right? Take them off, put them on an external hard drive,
Right.
and leave them on that external hard drive. And then I delete them both from my computer and from the cloud storage stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to run into where I'm paying so much. And so part of
Right.
me says, okay, could I save $200, keep the RAM, spend the $400 on the RAM, because that's real time performance improvement, right?
Right.
And do a little bit of work, which I probably am going to end up having to do anyway, to keep my storage down at the 500 to where
Right.
500 is usable. So what do you
Right.
think? What do you think about that?
I think that's a good idea. And actually, I was going to mention something like that when we talk about the photo backup. Whenever we get around to that episode, right? You can always use like things like Ready Share on your router or something. I'm not sure if the Euro has it, but I'm sure it has the USB port where you can plug in your hard drive and things like that. So maybe you can access that if you needed it, right? Just as
Yeah.
a emergency kind of thing. Just plug that hard drive into your router whenever you're going to go camping for a week or two, just in case you needed access to it. So yeah, I think you can deal with the 512 storage and offload some of that. Now, it's more work on your end having to clean up and offload some of the older episodes and things like that, or older video files and things like that. But yeah, as long as you can figure out a way to still have access to it when you need it, yeah, I think you can get by with that.
Yeah. I mean, right now I'm only keeping the last, because OneDrive has this feature where you can tell it to maximize storage or to keep everything available
Right.
local, right? And so what I am doing is, I think I've only got like the last episode or 2 of Gadgets for Families, all of the files associated with that, that's sitting
Right.
um, physically on my hard drive here, because otherwise
Yeah.
it just starts
And
to
then,
slow
and how
down.
often do you need any of the old ones, right? I go back, I look at the notes from old episodes, but that's
Yeah.
tiny compared to video. Um, yeah, I just don't see you needing to have access to those videos and files like that often,
Especially after I publish, right? And one of the things I
right?
already do, because these get to be so big, because I have the raw, then I have the draft, and then I have the final version, right? So I've got
Right.
like 3 versions of all these things. And so I'm already going in and purging the
Right.
draft and the raw versions after I get the final one done. So I could actually just go say, I'm going to put all the GarageBand files, all the iMovie files, all the raws, the drafts, and the finals.
Mhm.
I could put all of that stuff into into the same folder and
Right.
zip it and move it onto a hard drive at some point. And then I
Right.
would have
Right.
everything, versus the way stuff is right now. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, like right now I'm looking, my photos absolutely are big. I've got, not as big as some people, but I've got 103 gigs worth of pictures, or the photo
Okay.
library,
Not
right?
too bad. Yeah.
On here, I've got 54 gigs of music. That's the other thing I don't do right now, is I don't have all of my music on here, and I actually don't know why. Oh, I do know why, because 44 gigs is all these GarageBand files, and I don't
Yeah.
think I've purged GarageBand in months. Um, so that's on there, and um, then you start getting into the OneDrive and stuff like that, which gets super super big if I don't
Yes.
clean it up on a regular basis. But I'm going to run into that terabyte threshold, right, on OneDrive, that I don't want to increase on. So I'm going to have to do some file management anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So cleaning on your part, a little more effort on managing your space and all of that. and you go down to a 512 gigabyte SSD, how much does that lower the price?
If I go down to a 512, that takes off $200.
Okay. And
If
that's
I
the
were
M3 Pro,
Uh-huh.
right?
And if I were to go
Okay,
down on
okay,
memory, so let's say I left it at the 18 and I do the 512, then it's clear down to 1999. So I'd be
okay.
saving $600 total if
Yeah.
and
And that sounds more reasonable. That's something that that's my price range. And you know how cheap I am. So
yeah. So that means that's entry level standard configuration. That one still says it'll arrive next Tuesday. I could actually go pick it up in store
right,
next Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever it is as well, on the 7th, which is the first day that
right.
they would actually deliver. So yeah, I mean that's standard configuration. My only thing about that is I'm trying to look and see what day that is. I didn't even realize what day the 7th is. It's next Tuesday. So this would be
Yeah,
recording day for us that my
right,
new MacBook would show up, which would be fantastic. If I change anything, then it's already pushed out clear to the 16th through the 20th. My problem with the 16th through the 20th is I'm going to be gone on the 18th, starting on the 18th. And I can't guarantee people would be home to receive it.
right.
So if I want to
You don't want
customize,
that thing sitting on the porch.
well, they won't. They're going to make me sign for it. They're going to make somebody sign for it
Oh,
anyway. So if I want to customize anything, I probably wouldn't order it till I got back from Thanksgiving. But
right.
I don't know, maybe 18. I mean, I'm doing okay with 16 gigabytes of memory right now. It's a little bit slow, and everything I've read says 18 gigabytes of memory is enough. That's a big chunk of money, right?
Yeah.
$400. So I don't know. I guess maybe I need to research, how much unified memory I need to do my video
Right.
rendering.
So and they did talk about, right. We said that they did a lot of comparison of the M3 to the M1 to get those numbers to look so large to surprise people. But one thing I do know is that it was outrageously faster than the Intel chip, right? We're talking Apple Silicon versus those old Intel chips. You're on an Intel chip, so um, yeah, I think even with 18 gigabytes of RAM over the 18 gigabytes that you have now on your Intel, on your Intel Mac, you're going to notice a huge difference, regardless. You know,
Yeah.
crazy fast
So
if you go with 32 or what is it, 36, but definitely still a huge boost over that Intel, um, chipset that you have. So,
yeah, I'm
so
gonna
you
do that
forgot the main
research.
thing.
I'm gonna do that
Okay,
research and figure it out. I mean, I'd like to pull a trigger on this sooner rather than later, but
right.
1999 is pretty appealing because that's
It
almost
is. It is.
$1,000 less than what I was planning on um, spending.
Yeah.
I'm looking right now at a Mac Rumors article from January talking about how much RAM is enough. So,
Okay. Yeah.
maybe it would be enough.
So the most important detail, though, I think that will really affect the outcome. You didn't say which color you're going with. Are you going to go
Oh,
with space black or
oh
the
yeah, oh yeah,
silver?
black all the way.
Definitely. Yeah.
There's just
Yeah.
no, um, there's just no comparison there.
Yeah.
So,
I think that one's probably going to be the one that sells out to the most.
wow.
So
Okay,
this
so
one,
yeah, I think so. I don't want to keep belaboring this. We were doing so good on time, but I'm reading this article. Now, this would have been the M1 chip.
mhm,
Yeah, this would have been the M1 chip. So we won't know on the M3s, but Lightroom exporting uh Lightroom Classic, it said that the 32 gigabytes exports just 2 seconds faster than the 16 gigabytes, with
okay,
multiple memory hungry applications open in the background. When exporting 4K ProRes RAW video, the 16 gigabyte Pro was just 6 seconds slower than the 32 gig.
Okay.
When exporting 8K, it was only a second difference. In Xcode, compile the project in 137 seconds with the 16, and it was 115 seconds. So, I mean, based on this,
Are those seconds really going to matter?
yeah, I mean, for considering the price for a computer I don't really want to buy to start with. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe this is one of those cases where me ordering the default configuration, because you talked about this earlier, I like to have the best of the best, but maybe
Right.
this is one of those cases where ordering the default configuration actually might be overkill just a little bit, which means
Right.
it should be sufficient. And um I don't see the problem with future proofing either on
Right.
this.
Here's something though you might consider. And correct me if I'm wrong. If you go back to the comparison page, the M3 MacBook Pro doesn't come in space black. It's space gray and silver only. So only the M3 Pro
No,
and
I would
Max
still go
comes
with
in
the
a
Pro
space black.
chip. I still go with the Pro chip, but I'm talking about the
Oh,
memory,
I thought you
right?
were saying the
No, no,
M3.
no, no, no,
Okay,
no.
the
No,
entry level memory.
I've
Okay,
moved off of that.
okay,
So,
okay, good.
but that's a
All right. Yeah, yeah. It
significant.
doesn't
I
look
mean,
like it comes in the space black for just the M3.
if
Just the
I'm
space
willing to
gray and
do,
silver.
if I'm willing to do 600 or not, if I'm willing to do cleanup on
Hmm.
a regular basis,
Right.
right? That means I only need 512. And if it's really that much faster, if 36 versus 18 is just not going to make that much of a difference, you're talking a $600
Yeah,
swing here. That's pretty significant.
it is. It is. And we were talking about something else. Um, no, we were talking about the MacBook, but I mean, if you're saving $600, you can take 300 of that and buy external storage. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Some really good external storage to manage that, or a subscription to some cloud storage or something like that. $600 is a big deal. That's a really good saving
Yeah. I mean, that's a big deal. So I think
with
it's a
trade-in
slam dunk.
value and things like that. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, and my current Mac is worth $490 in trading value, which didn't drop a whole lot. So by the time I'm done, I'm
right,
only paying $1,500
right.
for this, which is way
Yeah,
more reasonable, which means maybe I can still get the iPad Pro in
maybe
March.
if they don't do some weird price increase like like they did with this. The entry level is cheaper than the current version, but anything more than that, I don't know. We'll see. But I think you can get by with the model you have right now that you just configured.
I'll do some research. Tune in next week to see if I've got a
Yeah,
Mac coming or if I'm waiting till after Thanksgiving to order a spec'd up one.
right. All right. Well, that's all I had. I wanted to talk that through. So really quick show today. I know we went on, but no, it was all good info. I think that was a good conversation. So that's
Good.
why I was telling you to wait before you hit submit. Maybe we can talk this thing through and come up with some kind of idea. So you're gonna do some more research. Let us know what you decide next week.
Sounds good. I'm also going to drop a
All right.
blog post on trying to decide what kind of computer to buy too. So I'll do that once I've
Right.
made a decision and hit the buy button. So
Okay. Sounds good. All right, folks. Well, that was all we had. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you guys next week.
thanks everyone.